Christianity. Christianity gets its creation story from the very first book of the Bible, Genesis. In the beginning, there was nothing. No light, no land, no time, just God and darkness over a formless void. Then God spoke. Day 1, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. He separated it from darkness and called them day and night. Day 2, he created the sky, dividing the waters above from the waters below. Day 3, dry land rose out of the sea, and every plant and tree grew from the earth. Day 4, the sun, the moon, and the stars were placed in the sky to mark time and seasons. Day 5, the oceans filled with fish, and birds filled the air. Day 6, land animals appeared. And then, last of all, God created humans. He formed a man named Adam from the dust of the ground, breathed life into him, and placed him in a garden called Eden. Then, from Adam's rib, he made a woman, Eve. So Adam would not be alone. On day 7, God rested. That day became the Sabbath, a day of rest still observed by Christians today. The Christian creation story isn't just about how the world was made, it's a statement about order. Each step was intentional. Each part was declared good. And humanity, placed at the end, was seen as the crown of it all. Islam. Islam's creation account comes from the Quran and shares much of the same framework as Christianity, but with some key differences. Allah, the one God, created the heavens and the earth in 6 periods. The Quran uses the Arabic word ayam, which means days or periods, and Islamic scholars have long debated whether these were literal days or vast stretches of time. Allah spread out the earth, anchored it with mountains so it wouldn't shake, and caused rivers and vegetation to grow across its surface. He placed the sun, moon, and stars in the sky as signs for navigation, for timekeeping, and as evidence of his power. Then he created living beings, animals, plants, and finally humans. The first human was Adam, formed from clay. Allah breathed his spirit into Adam and elevated him above even the angels, teaching him the names of all things. Allah commanded the angels to bow before Adam as a sign of respect. All of them obeyed except one. Iblis, also known as Satan, refused out of pride. He believed fire, his element, was superior to clay. For his defiance, Iblis was cast out. In Islam, the act of creation required no effort, no tools, no time of struggle. Allah simply commanded be, and it was. All of creation, from the smallest particle to the furthest galaxy, is seen as a sign of Allah's power, mercy, and unity. Nothing exists without His will. Hinduism doesn't have a single creation story. It has many, and that's by design. Hinduism is one of the oldest religions on earth, with texts written across thousands of years, and different traditions within it offer different answers. Not as contradictions, but as different windows into the same truth. One of the most well-known stories involves the god Vishnu, who floats in a deep cosmic sleep on the back of a great serpent, drifting on an endless primordial ocean. From his navel grows a lotus flower. From that lotus, the creator god Brahma emerges. Brahma then creates the world, the sky, the earth, time, living beings, and the structure of existence itself. Another story from the ancient Rig Veda describes the sacrifice of Purusha, a cosmic being whose body was divided to form all of reality. From his mind came the moon, from his eye, the sun, from his breath, the wind, from his body, the earth. There's also the Samkhya philosophy, which describes creation as arising from the interaction between two eternal forces, Purusha, pure consciousness, and Prakriti, the material world. When these two forces meet, the universe unfolds. What's common across these accounts is that creation isn't a one-time event in Hinduism. time moves in cycles. The universe is created, preserved, and eventually destroyed, over and over, across unimaginably vast stretches of time, and then the whole process begins again. There is no single beginning. There is no final end. Just an endless, cosmic rhythm. Buddhism. Buddhism has a creation story, but it's not really about creation. Buddhism doesn't teach that a god made the universe. In fact, the Buddha largely avoided questions about the origin of the cosmos, not because he didn't know, but because he considered them a distraction from what actually matters: ending suffering. That said, Buddhist texts do describe the nature of the universe. It has no beginning that can be traced. It operates in vast cycles of formation and destruction, driven not by divine will, but by the natural laws of cause and effect, what Buddhism calls dependent origination. Everything that exists arises because of conditions. Everything that arises will eventually cease. There is no first cause, no original creator, no single moment where nothing became something. One text, the Agana Sutta, does offer a symbolic account of how beings came to inhabit the earth. In it, luminous beings from a higher realm gradually descended into physical existence. As they became more attached to the material world, their light faded, their bodies solidified, and the familiar world took shape around them. But Buddhism is clear this story is a parable about the nature of craving and attachment, not a literal cosmology. For Buddhists, the more important question was never, where did the world come from? It was, why do we suffer, and how do we stop? Judaism's creation account is also found in Genesis, the first book of the Hebrew Bible, called the Torah. The story will be familiar. God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, instituting the Shabbat, the weekly day of rest that remains central to Jewish life today. But in the Jewish tradition, these texts carry layers of interpretation that go far beyond the surface reading. For centuries, Jewish scholars, rabbis, philosophers, and mystics have analyzed every word of the creation account. Why does the text say, "Let us make man," in the plural? What is the deep structure hidden in the opening Hebrew word, Bereshit, in the beginning? What does it mean that humans were made in the image of God? Jewish mysticism, known as Kabbalah, offers one of the most intricate answers. It teaches that before creation, God contracted himself an act called tzimtzum to create space for the world to exist. Creation then emerged through divine light flowing into vessels. When the vessels shattered, sparks of divine light were scattered throughout the material world. The purpose of human life is to gather those sparks back. In Judaism, creation is not just a past event, it is an ongoing relationship. The same God who made the world made a covenant with Abraham, liberated the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, and gave the Torah at Sinai. The creation story is the first chapter in a much longer story about God, humanity, and the responsibility they share. Shinto is the ancient indigenous religion of Japan, and its creation story is unlike anything else on this list. In the beginning, there was chaos. The universe existed as a single, formless mass like an unhatched egg, ancient texts say, with no distinction between heaven and earth, light and dark, life and void. Slowly, the lighter elements separated and rose to form the heavens. The heavier elements sank and hardened into earth. And from the heavens, the first divine beings, the kami, emerged spontaneously. Among the last of these first kami were a pair, Izanagi, the male principle, and Izanami, the female principle. They were given a jeweled spear and tasked with creating the land. Standing on the floating bridge of heaven, imagined as a rainbow arching between the sky and the sea, they dipped the spear into the churning ocean below and stirred. When they lifted it, the drops that fell from its tip hardened and formed the first island. Izanagi and Izanami descended to this island. Together, they gave birth to the rest of Yust, the Japanese islands, to rivers and mountains and trees, to winds and seas. Then tragedy struck. Izanami died, giving birth to the god of fire, Izanagi, overcome with grief, descended into the underworld to bring her back. What he found there horrified him. He fled, sealing the entrance to the underworld with a boulder. As Izanagi purified himself in the sea after that journey, more kami were born from his washing. From his left eye came Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun. She became the most important deity in Shinto and the divine ancestor of the Japanese imperial family. In Shinto, the world was not built from nothing by a distant god. It was born the way a child is born, through the union of divine parents. And the land, the sea, the sky, and every living thing within them are not just God's creation, they are family.